Welcome to Spoken Synergy. We are coming to you from Wanjerabara country, where we pay respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I have my beautiful friend here, Carl Laz, aka the Chocolate Wizard. Welcome, brother. I'm really excited to ask you a whole bunch of questions today and just see where the conversation takes us. So welcome. How are you feeling?
Yeah, thank you. I feel good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to be here. Looking forward to this conversation up on this magical mountain.
Yes, so many beautiful conversations. So let's start with your story. Just a little bit about how you got to be the Chocolate Wizard, how you got to be a beautiful coach, sound healer, all the things, and give our watchers a bit of a story about you.
All right, thank you. So I guess the dreaming all began really when I moved to Australia. So I moved to Australia about 22 years ago. I was 16, turning 17, went to school and was kind of taken out from a more beachy town in South Africa down the bottom of this mountain actually. And coming up to this mountain was actually one of my first reintroductions back to nature. Nice. I actually had my first friend in Australia that lived up here. So I finished school, went a bit of tried uni out, didn't really work out so much. I was always at the pub or I was smoking joints with international students in the ovals. So there was kind of those signs of that altered states that I was already drawn to. And I took some time off from that and thought I'd just spend some time actually thinking about what I actually want to do instead of just study what society says. And one of the things I was drawn to was actually herbs. I remember going out to Nimbin and seeing a happy herb store and starting to, I was already from a young age, I smoked weed and I smoked tobacco. So I kind of knew these things. I had an affinity with them. And when I found out there was more and more of these plants, it made me realize that I'd also been supported during this journey with my mother, who was an aromatherapist, a massage therapist, and yoga teacher. And I was kind of like, oh, this is all here. So I actually started to research cannabis.
Nice.
Just through the internet. And it wasn't so much to even get the wisdom for myself. It was more to defend my right to smoke weed.
Right.
Because everyone was telling me that was bad for me. And I looked around and people were doing all sorts of things that were bad for them. So I was like, I'm going to research this plant. And so I can argue with people essentially and say, no, it's not. Look. And the more I looked into it, the more I saw the health benefits. I saw its history and how it was woven in time and in so deeply in our cultures. And so were all the herbs. And during this journey, I was like, oh, maybe I should learn more about herbs. Because I remember that shop that I saw and they had all these different herbs that I was buying. And that really was my first step. I enrolled to do a Bachelor in Health Science as a naturopath. And a few months later, I got a job at a Happy High Herb store in Southport, just down the road from Endeavour, where I also met you. So that opened up the world of studying herbs and plants. I had this beautiful blend of the science as well as the more mystical side of things. Like the Happy High Herbs is also looking at alternatives and altered states and shamanism and things like that. And when I was studying, it was more like, this is the scientific model. Here's the phytochemistry. Here's the actions, the pathology. So I got this really nice initiation into the plants where I lived down the road. I used to skate my Ruster skateboard to work and to uni. So I was in this really nice herb bubble. And I often think about this as such a pivotal stage in my life where I was earning an income from the herbs. I was also studying them and then doing my own exploration as well. And during that time, I also started to look more into energy healing.
Nice.
And I knew that I wouldn't just be working with herbs because there is still a limitation with healing with herbs. There's certain things that can be healed and can't be healed. So moving into the vibrational space, it was opening up to, we're working on an atomic level. We're working with molecules and energies and anything can then be healed. So then I did Reiki, 1, 2, 3, mastery, teacher. And then I actually got my first didgeridoo. So being from South Africa, it was a didgeridoo through a friend. So I started learning to play that. And not so long after that, got a flute, started playing crystal bowls and essentially being of service in that way. And it was, I think, couple years after I finished studying, I went on a pilgrimage to Europe. And that's when a lot of ideas started dropping in around really grounding what I know and starting to share it. And it was around this time where I say that chocolate came. Like I was ready and chocolate came into the scene. And I learned how to make chocolate and first saw it as a herb that could be broken up and also mixed, more importantly, mixed with other herbs. So straight away I started mixing it. I think the first chocolate I ever made was ashwagandha and mucuna. And straight away I was like, this is great and I can't be the only one doing it. So again, went to the old internet, started researching herbal chocolate, and I found some information by David Wolfe, and then looked more into some of the research he had done in chocolate. He has a beautiful book called Naked Chocolate, which is really informative and a nice intro into chocolate. And what I found in there was that the ancients, Aztec, Maya, Inca, all used chocolate as a food, as a medicine, as a sacrament, and as a currency. And I was already working with sound, working with shamanic plants, doing my own ceremonies, rituals. So I started to essentially use chocolate in that way, mix it with certain herbs, with certain intentions, then sit in ceremony with sound, breath. And what I say is that's when the chocolate dreaming started, which is essentially this deeper unfolding of what chocolate wants to happen. And chocolate being a gift from the gods, it's said to be given to bring connection back to self and the earth, especially at a time when man has lost connection and is taking more than he's giving back.
Yes.
So that journey led me into build a business where I had my chocolate in 60 stores around Australia at health food stores. And that built me to a point where I thought I achieved everything that people said I should achieve. And I felt empty. And I was kind of like, oh, well, this isn't what I was meant to be doing. And I ultimately let it all go. I just called suppliers and I said, I'm not doing it anymore. And at that stage, got a job as a herbalist again and was working with people one-on-one and realized, oh, wow, I was helping, client after client come off their medications they didn't want to be on anymore, depressive, anxiety, those sorts of things. So help them with those, but also come off the addictive medications they were on.
Sure.
And then also went more into refining my coaching skills, NLP, hypnosis, these sorts of things, more access to the mind. And then revisited the chocolate. When you on this path, always looking for signs, always acknowledging the signs and seeing them, but also not just going, oh, I see that sign, I must do this. It's like, I see that sign. How is this affecting me here? And where am I going? What am I thinking? So when chocolate started sending me signs again, I made an agreement with chocolate that I would only do it if it was fun and it wasn't stressful. So that allowed me to open up into the world where I do make chocolate, but I don't have to make chocolate.
Got it.
That makes sense. So it is more of a tool that I utilize. It's not just a business. It's a lifestyle. And within that, we were even just sharing before this interview of like the different waves that happen, and chocolate in its energetics is bitter and sweet. So there's the sweetness, which is the love, compassion, and then there's the bitter, which creates space in our bodies. Like I don't know if it's the same in Chinese medicine, but in Ayurveda, it's like it creates space. It activates the liver, starts clearing things out. So there's this constant letting go, so you can have more love in. So that kind of brings me like back up to the mountain here, where now I have a little dream lodge and I do chocolate dreamings, which is essentially a mindfulness practice and ritual utilizing chocolate, our five senses and the elements to connect in with our dream life and to really connect in with that. So that's kind of brings me to where I am right now.
Amazing. All right, I got so many questions.
Great.
But let's go back to, I'm very interested in the pilgrimage. So something called you out of the safety and security of this lifestyle here over there, and that's when this new relationship with chocolate came in. So what drew you towards that experience, and was there any resistance as well?
Well, with the pilgrimage, it was the Camino de Santiago in France and Spain. And essentially with that, someone told me about it. It was from deepening my connection with actually holding space. I started coming up here and doing healing circles at a place called Grailhaven, Light Center on Long Road. And from there, one of the ladies that I was doing it with talked about the Camino, and then I spoke with Richard, who's one of the custodians of Grailhaven, and he said, he had walked it, and you get 3 signs, you get 3 calls. And then somebody else spoke to me about it, and I was like, all right, let's go. And Jerry and Richard from Grailhaven were doing a sacred sites journey based on alchemy, and alchemy was something that I had been studying a lot, specifically when I had stayed up here on the mountain previously as well. So I was called to that. So there wasn't much resistance in that. It was more in that trust. I think I was 25 and everything was just flowing. I had big dreadlocks. Well, I think I just had fairly big dreadlocks and a beard. So life kind of just unfolded for me. There had been a breakup, but it also sparked a bit of change and movement.
Sure.
So yeah, that's what drew me there. And when I was there, it was also the aspect of just walking, just walking the way, waking up every day, just walking. And that's all you have to do for 30 days, 800 kilometers. I was like, that sounds pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very prepared. I'd done a lot of festivals, like transformational festivals, and I was kind of dressed like I was at a festival, which is very like non-practical when you're walking like 12 to 20 kilometers every day and you have 12 kilos on your back. I probably look stylish. Yeah. People are like, who's that guy with the dreadlocks and herbs on his backpack? And
Yeah. Wow. Okay. It's cool that those 3 signs come in. It's very similar to like a vision quest that we talk about in shamanism, where if you want to be initiated to the next level, then you have to go outside your comfort zone. You have to do something scary and daunting and rely on your guides, so to speak. And it sounds like that sort of naturally happened in that story.
Yeah.
And we talk about plant allies, on our team that teach us and also want to be expressed in the world. And it sounds like chocolate was definitely one for you.
Yes.
And you talk about this sacred relationship, which is really beautiful and coming into harmony with that. So it sounds like you went into a paradigm with chocolate and then you had a breakup and now you guys are repairing it and doing it in a more balanced way. Is that the feeling around it now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you want to elaborate?
I'll say that like when chocolate showed me the way of how to, because for me when I first started doing chocolate, it was purely a platform to talk about plants, because for 7 years I just talked about plants every day and I had seen how people respond to them. Do they work? Is this actually effective? Is this just witchcraft? And all the resistances, and also people just getting bored if you just talk about plants. Like right now it's trending and people love it. But back then I was like, like chocolate's also this like really good excuse to have herbs. Because if I talk about herbs, people are like, yes, herbal chocolate. Oh, I love chocolate. Yeah, tell me more.
Yes.
So diving into that, and I guess then getting consumed by what other people think. It should be vegan chocolate. It should be raw. It should have these sugar alternatives. Well, here I am trying to like tick all those boxes and everyone's asking me those questions about them, but no one's asking me about the herbs.
Totally.
So when we broke up, it wasn't like I didn't stop making chocolate. I was still making it for myself, but as far as publicly serving it. So when we came back together, I was like, now I make good organic chocolate. It has sugar in it. It's organic. It's dark. Do you like it? If you don't like it, cool. If you like it, well, I'll tell you about what else is in it.
Yeah.
So I kind of just crossed those barriers of chocolate has also found its way into our culture. That's the thing I think a lot of people miss, is that it's this rainforest plant that's been used by Aztecs and Maya, which were quite evolved civilizations, and has all sorts of wild rituals. We can maybe go into some of them. They're not all love and light. Like there's a lot of those like powerful intentions, but coming back to the fact that it's already spread its seed to every corner of the globe. You can pretty much buy chocolate everywhere. Maybe not everywhere, but almost everywhere, and it connected to everyone in their heart spaces. So everyone loves it. It's this loving gift. So I guess for me, the more and more I'm in it, it's like letting go of what the human mind thinks. Cadbury's is bad or Nestle's bad. It's like there's no bad chocolate. Like good and bad is a human concept, and also coming clearer with like what we place on the plants, which in their essence, they just want to spread their seeds. They want to flower, they want to be pollinated, they want to spread their seeds. Then we can go into their higher teachings and their other medicines.
That's right.
But to remember that if the plant's getting planted, it's happy.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's, I very much think that they're trying to help us through the evolutionary process. They're teachers and guides and all these sorts of things. And I remember tuning into the Chocolate Wizard stuff and saying, that is brilliant, because it's a very potent medicine that everyone is so receptive to.
Yeah.
And I know the power of those other herbs. And I think if you only knew like what ashwagandha can do, you would all be thriving on it.
Totally.
You would be trying to get to it. But chocolate is like world famous.
Yeah.
So that's the driver. People accept it, and then you can have the medicine behind it. And I just thought that was brilliant, because we have a shared experience about working in those happy high herb stores, and it was challenging at times, particularly in London. It was just like, is that weed? No. Is that weed? No. Nothing in this shop is weed, but everything has an intelligence, everything has a medicine, everything has a way to change your consciousness, and there's history and all that.
Yeah.
And it's very much an education piece. But blending them all with chocolate is this way in.
Yeah.
When there's that lack of education. So I still think that's brilliant.
Yeah. Definitely a good idea. And the more I looked into chocolate and dropped into like the phytochemistry and how what's the makeup of chocolate, it is this amazing gift from the gods. It's why it's called Theobroma cacao. It's like food of the gods. It's, named in the 1800s or early 1900s, to think that a scientist would name it the food of the gods. And even that controversy of religion and the plants and how it has woven into being like in Easter, which is a very Catholic Christian holiday, or Christmas, and it's like everyone's eating chocolate. There's more mysteries. So I do also have a secret chocolate society, and when we gather, we're more asking what wants to happen. So there's a number of different secrets, and a lot of the secrets are still being unfolded. So I do like to sit in a place of what wants to happen here, and knowing that I know enough to know how little I know.
Yeah. And that's what happens if you're in that right relationship with these plants. It's like, how would you like to be received? How can I serve you and your evolutionary lessons for the world? And it's so respectful. It must be a very interesting plant ally to work with.
Yeah.
Like some shamans get all sorts of plant allies, and they're not all easy. Some of them get tobacco, some of them get ayahuasca, some of them get these incredibly potent plants that must have a fairly demanding message at times. And you're thinking like, I'm just trying to help people, but this plant has this huge mission.
Yeah.
And you're right, there's so many people on the planet right now that I believe have chocolate or cacao as their plant ally, because look at it, it's just going crazy. Cacao ceremonies, everyone knows about it. It's insane. But I'm also curious about, tell me why the successful business part long ago felt so empty. Do you know why in hindsight?
I think in hindsight, it's just like lack of systems. Like to actually go, there's actually a really good book called The E-Myth. It's all on business. And it essentially talks about how if you go from working in a shop, you're like, I have this big dream to have my own business, and then realize, well, you got to be a taxman, you got to be the tax, you got to be the manager, you got to be this, you got to order, you got to do all those things. And a lack of that clarity, I think, for me, was when I was either just making chocolate, or I was just like replying to emails, or I was just swamped with all just doing mundane work. And my whole life I'd crafted so I wasn't doing mundane work. I was studying herbs, and I was working in a herb shop before that. And now I'm like making chocolate all the time, and then responding to emails and answering questions that people have, and not even having the time to write or properly advertise or give people the information of what I actually had. I think that was more the overwhelming of being sucked into the mundane. I want to be a business, and then go into business, and anyone who is in business knows that in and itself is medicine, and it is an initiation, and you go through it. No one told me that when I was like, I'm going to make a chocolate company. So
then you're like, wow, this is a chocolate company.
How do I maintain this? And there's that next step, and is this actually how I want to be living my life? And it essentially wasn't. just making the chocolate and then not actually seeing people in the stores. But then, so now the way that I do it is it's just on a subscription.
Yeah.
So people essentially join the Secret Chocolate Society and I'm sending chocolate out to them.
Wonderful.
And then I know when I make the chocolate and all has meaning. So connecting with the cycles, every equinox solstice is when I do it. So that's what was missing, a bit of systems, not necessarily I need all the business systems, but how does it all relate back to my connection with myself and the earth? And then the system is essentially going, well, I made some chocolate and I don't have to chase up who wants it. It's already all sold before I make it.
Yeah.
And that allows me to really be in my flow with it and learn and grow and continue to learn and grow with it.
And it makes it incredibly authentic as well. Because I guess you get to the point where like business doesn't feel authentic anymore because you're doing things that maybe aren't your genius, maybe you're not good at, maybe you're not doing well. And then that relationship with the potent plant starts to change, like any relationship, right?
Yeah.
If you're not honoring who you are, things start to get real dicey real quick.
Yes.
Yeah, and you start like codependent mechanisms. We don't want that. So sounds like it's still teaching you, and subscriptions are a great way to do it because if people are keen and they're super into it, you focus on them.
Yeah.
And anyone that's not in that resonance bubble, cool.
Yeah.
It's no problem.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but if you're drawn to chocolate's medicine, then I'm offering you a way to deepen your connection, which is lovely. So essentially you're teaching them about plant allies and
Totally.
yeah, and how to move towards it.
Well, all the chocolates are infused with different herbs. So I'd say I have like a whole party of plant allies. So when I started sitting with other people who are doing more medicine work with ayahuasca, and they're like, talking about plant spirits and allies, they just go, wow, you have lots of plants around you. And I'm like, yeah, I don't sing with them, but I've grown them and I have that connection. Chocolate's that medium, and it keeps me alive as well. When I'm too focused on chocolate, often things happen for me to like zoom out and then go, oh, there's other plants. Like at the moment, it's alive as kava. In my field, it's just come alive, and I'm like, kava's very much going like, talk about me.
I love kava.
And it goes really well with chocolate.
Yes.
And coffee. And everything.
Yes.
So it's keeping me on track where there's like, I'm the chocolate wizard, but I'm a herbalist and sound healer. Sometimes I'll just go play music. And then that's healing for people. So the chocolate for me, I've kept it at a place where it is, like you said, it's still teaching me and it's still growing, and I'm sharing and holding that space for it. And especially now when there is so many cacao ceremonies happening, which is great. People are connecting more with themselves. It shows the times, it shows the change. However, people like making things into a religion.
Oh my gosh.
And the thing is, this is a plant. Like I've actually gone and I've grown. I only have about 8 trees. They're not fruiting yet, but I went up pilgrimages to plant the tree. So I have this direct communion with it now. So when people say, oh, you can't do that with cacao, I'm like, hang on, let me just call my plant, or like pick up a cacao pod and actually ask the tree and go, that's you.
100%.
These plants work through us, and they also bring us to the forefront. And often when people go, this type of chocolate's bad, I'm like, that means something about yourself.
Yeah, 100%. We even teach our students, like, ask the plant directly how it would like to be used. Yes. Have you asked tobacco if it wants to be ingested in that way? Have you asked if it wants to be grown? Does it want to be meditated or sung to?
Yes.
It's really not this like judgmental situation, which can be really difficult, but it's like you and chocolate will be tight, but it's an ever unfolding thing. And if that plant tells you I want to be planted up here, then looks like you're going.
Yeah.
Without that sense of judgment. Should we nerd out on kava a little bit?
Okay. Sure.
So excited.
Yeah.
So what do you love about kava?
Ooh, for me, kava, even in its name, it's Pipum mysticum. So there's this like mystery in it, or this mysticness in it. And for me, it's this root, and I actually made a video the other day about this because I got sent a bunch, and it's got this like Polynesian, like the islander vibes. It grows in Fiji, Vanuatu, grow in Hawaii, and all those places cacao grow and coffee grow and vanilla grow as well. So you think of all those plants besides coffee, which is like get shit done, which I'm getting to know better as well. Coffee only now in the last 2 years. But kava, it has this like ability to calm the body and relax the body also calm the mind, like take the stress off, and also open up that connection between the other world, whether that's with our ancestors, the spirit realm, but not in a way where it's like ayahuasca or LSD or mushrooms, where it's like, look at everything, and you're hallucinating, and for me, hallucinations are real. They just may not be manifest right now. So you can't always trust the timing of them. But with kava, it's non-hallucinogenic.
Yeah, that's right.
So you still have this otherworldly connection, but you're also very rooted in the ground, you're earthed. That's on a more of like a plant medicine vibe. But I also see it as like, you think of the Fijians drinking it and they clap after they drink, and it's so jolly and happy. And you think of the islanders, they're always so happy. So it's that island time, and we really need that in society, which is very serious and kind of coffee driven. Coffee is like Mars, we go to war, get this stuff done, and we love it for it.
Sure.
And then on a medical side, kava, love that it has this from what I've seen in research, its ability to essentially like heal, that's a dodgy word to use in this time, which is strange, but nourish the GABA receptors. So GABA modulates our nervous system. So in a society where we're more overactive or very depressive, it allows us to modulate and actually find our peace within that. The research I've seen in there with comparisons with diazepam or Valium, which is really highly prescribed for anxiety, is that after 5 weeks of use of both, so different groups, one was kava, one was a Valium group, after 5 weeks, the level of anxiety reduced was the same.
Wow.
But after that 5 weeks, when they took the medicines away, then after a week, they tested people again, and pretty much everyone in the Valium group got anxiety again.
Yeah.
And everyone in the kava group didn't.
This is the conversation.
So it is that it's not like, you have kava once and you're cured, but having that download, you're actually like, for me, I always see it as you're downloading this information from these plants, which are technologies for our body.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the synthetic stuff is actually just forcing those receptors. They're finding something to go in there, but it's not nourishing. It's almost draining afterwards.
That's right.
So again, that's a beautiful thing with kava. And then now that kava's, it's like it's legal again, because it was restricted, banned, and then it slowly came back for medicine, and then personal use, and now it's everywhere. People are telling me that you can get it at supermarkets and stuff.
Wow.
So I only just recently got a package from Happy High, which have or Happy Herb Co. They have a single origin from Vanuatu kava, but there's 4 different varieties, which I didn't even know there was like, it's like when you different types of cannabis, one will be creative, one will be for sleep, one will be for pain.
Sure.
So it's similar with that. There's one that's more energizing and creative and doesn't last as long, or there's one for like deep relaxation, and then there's one that's more euphoric. So showing that of like how it's opening up, and especially within a society now who I think we really need a herb like that, because I'd say it's still a level 2. I think if people can nourish themselves with things like chamomile and lemon balm, these are all like, after you sort out your food, eat right, sleep right, exercise, take time to meditate, then you can start introducing some of the herbs and start just with some lighter herbs. Kava is kind of in that middle ground.
It's got a punch,
It can be earth-based, but it can also be mind, and then start touching in spiritual realms.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. It seems very nourishing for the body. I remember that I went through a love affair in London because someone there made it into like a honey.
Oh, nice.
So it was so accessible, and it was this deeply nourishing experience. But the more you take, the more you just slip into a journey process so easily, and you're just navigating the day. And I was noticing that those lucid states were coming in. I thought, this is powerful. And it almost disengaged fear of it. It wasn't like, as you said, huge big hallucinations and fear of like, am I coming back? It was really just, whoa, I went somewhere. This is really cool.
Yes.
And good for the kidneys and good for all these other things. But I love that pillar that always has to come in: eating, sleeping, exercising, and then.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what do you think? You're trying to put a Band-Aid on something with a herb and it's got too much to do.
Yeah.
Might not be enough respect there either.
Yeah. And that's also why people are jumping in today's society as well into like the mushrooms straight away and those sorts of things, which are going to help, but it's not going to be settling, you still need your like, as you say, your resources settled first. You have to have your day-to-day dreaming sorted so that the plants can bring more of that magic in.
Yeah.
And for me, the kava does hold this this beauty when we have things and our stress gets taken away, life opens up.
Sure.
So again, just in that, like, so can you be more magical? It's not necessarily the kava's doing it to you. The kava's allowing that to be expressed through you.
Yeah, and I guess the difference is a medication goes on and gives you relief. It's really like, let's stop what's happening, show you what life looks like in that relaxed state. But as soon as that drug leaves your body, you're back.
Yeah.
But the herbs go in and they sort of penetrate the system at their own rate.
Yeah.
And they stay in there. They like accumulate and they stay. And the more that you work and journey with those herbs, you've really got to put in the time and effort. But they teach you something, don't they?
Totally.
But you're right, nothing negates self-care, even though our egos would love that, to just like, just fix me. Just one pill and fix me so I don't have to exercise and I don't have to do these things.
Yeah. And also it's that perception that a lot of people might have tried kava and gone to Fiji and sat and either, you know, the normal human experience would be like, it tastes like dirt and it just made me sleepy and I fell asleep. My response to that is like, one, things are going to taste different. And you start tasting herbs and not just salty and sweet, which is what society is, maybe some sour. But how, if you're feeling sleepy on these herbs, it's because you actually need to sleep.
Totally.
And go sleep and enjoy the sleep. But then come back to the plant. And then you're slowly, once you've gotten that rest, then there's more to show. So this is the same with cannabis as well. People are like, oh, I just fell asleep. I just did this. It's like, all you needed is sleep.
Yeah.
Some people drink chamomile and go, it makes me sleepy. I'm like, far out. Like, cool, we'll go to sleep. But there's more to the nourishing. It's almost like these plants point us to what we need to do. And if you do them, then it will open up the next stages. And seeing that within plant medicines as well, like ayahuasca and stuff, everyone's going, I need healing. And it's like, this is a high level technology plant that's a teacher. All these people like, heal me. And it's like, there's a whole bunch of other plants that are right there. Like, change your diet, get meditating, eat the right food, and start nourishing the nervous system. There's a herb for everything. And then you can learn something from these other teacher plants.
That's right. That's right. And it's a fairly potent plant. Like, you go straight to the mother and say, heal me, or she'll slap you around in the face because she'll open the doors, but then you have to go back and do that groundwork all over again. And some of those other herbs really help that part.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to be sometimes traumatized by how strong she is.
Totally.
But it's our extremes, right?
Yeah.
But we even notice that in journey processes, like a lot of people fall asleep for the first few weeks or the first year. Yeah. It's like, great, you were tired. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your expectation is taking you away from the truth that your nervous system's shot. Yeah. That's why every time you lie down, you're asleep. But we need that sort of active state.
And when you're asleep, you're healing.
The plant's doing a really good job.
It's the same with sound. It's like when you're doing sound, people fall asleep. It's like, well, you received it all.
Yeah.
And if you're awake for the whole thing, aware of how active your mind was, great. You're becoming more aware. And it's, you know, every step is actually the process. You know, it's in the process that we get the magic. You know, the magic is in the process that we're actually experiencing.
Yeah. And sometimes I think for those herbs and plants to work, you being asleep is the best way. Otherwise, we can override anything with our minds, right?
Totally.
Yeah, we can be like, no, it's not working, or that's not the truth, or I don't like that feeling, or no, I'm not opening that door. Plants like, go to sleep. I've got some stuff to do.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think placebo is like 80% effective in like in scientific studies. So it's scientifically proven that if you believe something, it's a high chance that it will happen.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about when you do look at the science and mysticism of stuff. It's like we always want to go in with a certain intention and being positive, but then be able to let it go. And sometimes for the deeper healing, we need to get out of that conscious mind or even the subconscious mind. So we stop, we let go. We don't take hold of the experience so much, which is why I think people get drawn to herbs and this sort of work anyway, because they do want to feel that flow and that trust in the process.
Yeah.
And that's why I do think kava is great, because it takes that pressure off And same as chocolate, it's allowing people to play in these spaces without the big consequences.
That's
Because
right.
if you use chocolate, like we've all just eaten chocolate while watching TV or having a chat, nothing bad happens. You feel good.
Yeah, you don't vomit for 8 hours.
No.
That's great.
And if you use it with intention, people have really deep and meaningful experiences. You know, it's when people start going, oh, I can't drink cacao, I'm too sensitive. I'm like, well, maybe you should support your nervous system.
That's right.
It's like if you're feeling too sensitive, it's because your nervous system isn't nourished enough. I always have this thing with people talking about like the 5D, 6D, whatever it is. Like, is your nervous system equipped to run that energy through it?
Totally.
And
Otherwise, it'll...
yeah, same with like the Kundalini awakening and those sorts of things. It's like, well, support your nervous system.
Yeah.
And actually ground back in. So kava is also allowing us that. It's supporting that nervous system. And it might be a bit, I'm always curious how the herbs find their fame, you know, because we've known about them for a long time, right? And all of a sudden it's like, Blue Lotus, it's the next herb, we're going to Egypt. And I'm like, oh, all right, cool, Blue Lotus. Like,
It's time.
We go down, okay, let's see what's happening in the world. And there's this like erotic expression happening. And now kava coming and going straight to supermarkets. I'm like, whoa, that happened within a year or 2 years. And it's like, okay, it's ready to actually, you know, tap in, and people can have access if they want it. So it's showing that like the accessibility for people to prescribe themselves. And I think there's a few contraindications with kava, with the liver and alcohol, which is interesting because a lot of people also see it as like a alternative to alcohol. And I always try to tell people that there are no herbs that are alternatives to any other herbs. There's certain relationships you need to heal, and they can support your body to heal those things.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it will continue.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like noticing when the herbs are ready to be famous or accessible or seen, and just waiting for those moments and watching the fluctuations. But yeah, Blue Lotus, we were raving about a decade ago, easy, just going, this is amazing. And people are like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And now it's getting out there, and it's just wonderful to watch those trends. But you said coffee and kava, chocolate and vanilla get along?
Oh, yeah.
Do they?
They all grow together in the same way.
Right.
I mean, vanilla is just... when I first started getting into chocolate, and I thought I would get through chocolate and I'd make herbal coffee and I'd make herbal beer, which I have done, but just not on the scale that I have with chocolate. I remember the first time I saw a vanilla bean being opened, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, that's a vanilla. And internally, I looked at the vanilla and I said, you're just going to have to wait.
All right.
Because I'm like, chocolate was like, holy, like,
Yeah.
I thought it was just chocolate, but it's actually this plant that's a pivotal point in the whole plant kingdom. And it's almost why the other plants can be showing themselves. The more we connect with chocolate, the more we're connecting with the plant realm.
True.
Kind of similar with cannabis. You know, when cannabis is now legally prescribed, and in some places in the world it's legal, and it actually is an entity on the stock market. So it's holding financial wealth. You know, so it has this energy out of all the plants. It's running it, and it's also opening up the space for the other plants to come through. And there's no way they're going to make it illegal again. There's way too much money, like millions, if not billions of dollars in it. Whereas chocolate is more that Venetian, that heart, just opening our hearts to the plants and our receptivity. And if your heart's open, you're going to be able to feel the Blue Lotus more. Because how many people come in, and if it's not giving you the effect of weed, I don't feel anything.
I don't feel anything.
Some people in society will smoke a joint or have some drops of CBD or THC and be like, I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, you don't feel anything? Like, I can have very high doses of things, but also if I just have a little bit, I'm like, oh yeah, I can feel.
Yeah.
I can feel that sip of coffee I had, or that sip of kava I had.
100%.
Just smelling cannabis.
Yeah. Just being in the presence.
Allowing us to really open up, because that is a direct connection with this planet, which I believe in my dreaming. It's like we're birthed from. We don't just arrive here. We're in this microbiomic suit. We're looking at this microbiome, and that's our technologies. I don't like to get too techie around like the technical world of like computers and AI, but I do love it, and I think it all interlinks. But there's definitely more for me to learn if we're in nature. If you're in nature, sitting in it, we're getting those downloads, we're getting nourished, because our body's made up of that. Now when they're starting to want to microchip and stuff like that, human might start becoming more machine, which is good or bad depending on how you think. But at the same time, who was creating the internet? Who was creating the computers and AI? And it's like Silicon Valley. It's like Microsoft dude, Apple dude, all took LSD. You know, all the dudes microdosing. So essentially these microdosing of technologies have opened up this other realm. I don't believe it's the ultimate because we're still in these bodies, but it shows that there's a intelligence rather than a technology, but like an intelligence that flows, and these plants are a way that we can connect with them. And we are into technology, so how we connect with them as well.
100%. I kind of like what you said about, you know, cannabis is now being monetized massively, and it's legal and it's out there. And I think about the story of it's nothing new, and how many people have had to do it in the dark and grow it in the dark and in cupboards just to get their medicine. And they can have this love-hate relationship, can't they? It's like, I hate that I need it, but it's the only thing that makes me feel creative and connected. And now it's on the world market. It's like, it's time for this plant to be truly seen by everyone that hasn't seen it. But then there's all these people like, yeah, it's an old mate of mine. Yeah, we've known each other a long time, and at least it can come out of the cupboard.
Totally.
And be grown outside maybe, or grown in a way that, or used in a way that is more respectful perhaps.
Yeah. Or you can just use it and have a prescription and not feel like you're a criminal while you hang out with someone else who has a prescription. And you're just having a good time. Like anyone popping a pill, people can pop Valiums
wherever they want,
do whatever they want, or drink a coffee anywhere they want.
True.
So like, there is also, it's interesting because again with the chocolate teaching us just the right way of interacting with the plants.
That's right.
Because cannabis is one of those ones that's very high up on the initiation path, but also has hemp, which you can make houses out of, you can eat as food, all those. So it hits a lot of different areas. So I also like to say to people that like keep looking into the information, you know, and when people, but don't take it as complete truth. Every truth's a half truth. Yeah. And then to see what each plant can actually do. When you start looking into the phytochemistry of cannabis, like being a herbalist, I have an apothecary, and there's all these different herbs with different phytochemistry. But when you look at cannabis, it needs its own apothecary. That's just a cannabis apothecary. Wow. Whether you're looking at its terpene profiles or its flavorants, like how it actually makes it, how it works and what chemicals are actually in it. Each strain can be its own pharmacy, essentially. So people don't even see that. People are still on the mode of speaking in drug dealer terms. You know, your doctor's your drug dealer now. They talk about indicas, sativas, just like your drug dealer would. This one's going to make you sleepier and relax. This one's going to give you energy. But when you go into like places like America and people are actually studying it, stoners from back in the day that were hiding it still continue to study it, thank God, and chemistry to start looking at all the different active ingredients and how it interacts with our bodies. So
yeah, and it does make it respectful, right? Like if you respect someone in your life, like a person, you look into them, you try and understand them. You don't just say that person's angry or that person's this. Yeah. You sort of say like, well, why are they that way? And I want to treat them with respect. It's the same with the plants. Yeah. It's like if you're abusing them or taking them for granted, then we're not really using that medicine. And I think about how much they're diluted down and grown in the dark and been judged and chemicalized and monetized. And it's like, how do they actually want to be expressed? Yeah. And if we look further and further into it, we can find that level of respect, which is just like, this is incredible what it can do. But we're reducing it down to this shallow idea of a legal substance that creates whatever, laziness or complacency or something like that. But it seems like it's cannabis's time to shine in its own way. Yes. I mean, it's been shining all over the place.
Yeah, especially in its realms of like, you know, being a recreational drug is what everyone knows it as, and now just as a medicine, so for like pain or whatever that is. But the spiritual aspect hasn't really been showcased much. True. The right environment for that. So one thing that I do say is like now that if people are getting their prescriptions, you also have access to a psychedelic. Yeah. Which you can use. And what I've been loving, it's like with chocolate, you see people doing meditation, sound healing, breath work, yoga, all these different chocolatey things. It's you do all those spiritual things that you've been doing without any plants. You start adding the plants into it, and there's a new expression that comes out.
That's
So
right.
I see in the future there will be more cannabis yoga, there'll be cannabis sound healings, because it's going to open up more of that. And there's still so much for us to learn about all the plants.
True. And do you think there'll be a window for vanilla to shine in a new way as well?
Oh, I do think so.
Rather than just a cake additive thing.
Or when people say, oh, she's just vanilla. Or
Oh,
what a vanilla
true.
experience. I'm like, are you kidding me? This plant gets hand pollinated, hand picked, hand rubbed. I have a friend who's on a vanilla plantation up north in Cairns. Like all these plants grow up north in Australia as well. Not so much on the mountain here, unless it's in your bathroom in that humidity. But as a plant, it's so untapped to what its potential is. You know, from its like anti-aging type of qualities to mood enhancing to the aphrodisiac qualities. It's just when you smell vanilla, it's oh my goodness.
But it's so right how people use it as like an adjective to explain something that's boring or mundane. And I
Just
think
plain.
she will have her time.
Yeah, and she essentially makes everything better when you put vanilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe harmonizes it a little bit too and brings that character. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what are you excited about at the moment? You're working with people one-on-one. What else have you got going on?
Working with people one-on-one and small group dreamings. So work a lot with chocolate as a tool for mindfulness, with breath work, different rituals around elements. Yeah, that's what I'm really excited about now, is also getting back into certain people with where we're at with herbs, is actually doing more herbal medicine consults as well. And integration, like psychedelic integration of there's so many people accessing. Some are good practitioners, some are not so good practitioners. And how do you integrate that experience post what happened? You know, so that's something that I'm also really excited about with navigating people landing back in from accessing those states, and people that are just tapping into it and wanting to know more. Like that's where I really like that beginner mindset and working with people from that. And sometimes I work with people for 3 months or a couple of sessions or a whole year. So depending on where someone's at in their lives, essentially.
Yeah, I guess you'd be really good at assisting them in falling back in love with those natural medicines, with herbs, with plants. And that's a gift within itself, isn't it? It's like what we used to talk about in the herb shop was your health can be in your hands. You just got to open the doors to all these things that have been used for centuries and figure out what's working for you. And if pharmaceuticals are working, that's great.
Yeah.
But there's other ways of doing things, and there's a gentler way to taper off.
Yeah.
It's really just about knowledge and understanding that like thousands and thousands of plants are here to help us.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I like coming at it from I feel like I've got enough experience now to also play a bit of like a fun role. Where it's with people, if it's like, if you want to take health into your own hands, then you fully take it into your own hands.
Fully.
And start with like the sleep, the diet, the this. And how many people go, oh yeah, pharmaceuticals are bad and this and that. And then they get a sniffle and they go take antibiotics straight away. It's like, so making sure people are congruent. And I point that out with clients as well. It's like, well, that's not congruent. If you're talking about all this also spiritual stuff, but you're not doing things to ground, then, you know, and I like being able to just point those things out for people. If you choose a path that's not the normal, that it's going to be a whole lot wobbly, and you better be in integrity with yourself. Or just follow a line that's already there, a lineage. And I think that's the beauty of organized religions. It's like, if you don't want to go playing in the spiritual realm, which is like a wild, wild west, if you're not in integrity, then choose one of those that do your Hail Marys, you know, do your 5 prayers a day, or like, you know, your mala beads or whatever it is, do that, but stick in that, because, you know, a lot of those ones say, don't be taking plant medicines, don't be doing that. So for years I was like, why are all these spiritual people telling me not to take the plants when I'm definitely have this connection with plants? And now I can see there's depending on what your intention is. And there's a lot of people now with access to the whole potential of the spiritual realm, but then go, oh, but I want what that religion has. It's like, well, probably not going to get the same process that religion has, because they want you to do this, this, and this. But I believe that the ultimate enlightenment is the same thing. And it's probably this moment that we have right now, which is, in essence, what we have right now is better than what we want.
Yeah, totally. And remembering that over and over again. But I think we all crave certainty, and a whole bunch of people surrounding us that are following the same rules, which is what religion gave us.
Yeah.
But there's so much of that has caused trauma as well. It's like, well, I want to make my own mistakes and I want to go figure out my own relationship with spirit over here. But it's messy because we don't have a super solid culture that has elders and things outside of Christianity, really. So it's like, who do we go to? We go back to the plants. You go back to yourself. You go back to meditation and just go, right, I know nothing. Can we start again? But that craving for like, tell me the steps to get to the place. Yeah. It's just the ego saying it's not the point. Yeah. Never the point. The plants are so good at opening that up and working with you. And a lot of it is tough love as well. Yeah. So you fall asleep, you didn't want that outcome, your ego gets a knock around, and Carver's just done its job. Yeah. It has. Or you go off to see ayahuasca and she slaps you in the face as well and says, you haven't done the work, you don't respect me, go away. Yeah. And you go, oh, I didn't expect that either. Yeah. So it's really like finding that path that suits the individual.
Or nothing happened.
Oh, nothing happened. Yeah. Okay, 5 cups down, nothing happened. Hilarious. One drop in. Okay, stop. Everyone's different, right? Yeah. So, totally.
So it is that. And I think in this time we do have more and more people that are embodied like yourself in the work that you do, and showing people a process that does work to allow them to open up. And I like that same principles with the work that I do with the plants, and it's how I've grown up. And I do know when everything falls away, I come back to the same. Yeah. I always come back to the same place. Whereas I think so many people have been indoctrinated by like the medical system, the religious system. Everything's given to us. Oh, you want to be spiritual? Here you go. You're worrying about your health? Here you go. And when starting to break away from it, if everything falls apart, they have to go back to those systems.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it is coming back to self. It's like a lot of the stuff I do up on the mountain, I might do like breathwork or sound or chocolate, but most people get the major healing just driving up this mountain.
That's true. And spending time up here and being in that resonance and the soil, the air, the trees, it's a very healing place, but healing can be confronting. So they can come up here and be like, wow, all my stuff's coming to the surface. I'm like, yeah, that's what she does. Yeah. Yeah. Or
I had like 3 naps today and I never nap. Wow. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Feminine energy too. It's nourishing. It's not go, go, go. It's really like she's doing her work, but you got to surrender to it. Right. Yeah. And she does that really well. Super cool conversation. And I really want to get you back for more. Yes. But for now, how can people find you? We'll put some links below, but is it through your website, something like that?
Website, I have a new website, chocolatedreaming.com.
Lovely.
Then on Instagram or Facebook, just Kyle Laz7. So Kyle, Kyle, Laz 7.
Lovely.
On there, send me a message in the DMs. Probably on the Instagram is better than Facebook.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And if there's like the best intro herb or a herb that can really open the door, or just something people can look up to see something that's pretty beautiful and pretty powerful, would you recommend anything?
Oh, at this stage, I probably would look into would be Carver, I'd say. Yeah, I'd say check it out. And if it's more of like wanting to also connect with the plant, probably turmeric is one that's very good, and also lemon balm.
Nice.
Ones that grow quite well together, and almost in every environment they would grow. And then just keep researching, looking into the history of those herbs and how they play in our culture, and then also how you can use them in the daily.
Yeah.
Kind of safe. You can have them pretty much every day.
That's right. Yeah. Turmeric's in the spotlight now too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it has been for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And lemon balm, probably like a forgotten hero that I must look up again.
Melissa, yeah. Yeah. She's very, and I think very like community, has this like community, like a buzzing bee feeling in your heart when you have it. It just calms the nervous system. has quite an interesting history in alchemy as well. So yeah, those ones you can grow, like it's like growing mint, you know, but it's
True.
also antiviral, nervine. So
Beautiful.
in this time of all the things that are going on, it's
That's
a nice
it.
one to have. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for joining me here.
Thanks.
Awesome conversation. Cheers, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And thanks, guys, for tuning in. That was Spoken Synergy.